Okay, good morning students. Today let's start with a new chapter, Odysseus. Okay, I hope you have completed your work regarding the question and answers of the chapter, the last poem that we did. I don't want you to do anything right now with that chapter. Just do one thing, finish your pending work, finish your question and answers of the Bennett's and the others, the sacrifice of Vasantara, but just leave this part, please. Okay. So let's continue with Odysseus. Now, I'm sure you must have read it before, or the adventures of Odysseus. Odysseus is a beautiful chapter. Odysseus was actually a Greek hero. He was there in the war of Troy, in the battle of Troy. He was there. And after completing, after that war was over, he was going back to his home. Now, it took him 10 years to go back home. Just imagine he was there struggling for 10 years. So, this is just one of his adventures that we will be reading in this chapter, right? See, it says here he belonged to the kingdom of Ithaca. So, you should know that. I'll read the introduction for you. After Troy had fallen to the Greek army. Okay, page number is 89. Please open page number 89. Right? And see, when I'm explaining, I know most of you like to listen and just listen. No, if possible, please get your books so that you can at the same time read. You can look at your books when I'm reading it for you. See, it is important. Then only you will understand. Just don't look at the video and say, okay, fine, ma'am is saying and I can listen and I can learn it. No. Keep your books right in front of you. Right? So let's continue. After Troy had fallen to the Greek army, the Greek heroes sailed back home. One of these heroes was Odysseus. He had to travel for 10 years long. He lost all his ships in frightening adventures, but he reached his kingdom of Ithaca. Here is an excerpt from one of his adventures. The crew of lonely men scanned the horizon for many days in search of the native land. So this crew of men, these men who were together, Odysseus soldiers, they were there and they were looking all around the horizon. They were looking for some land. In fact, they were looking for the native hometown. It was a still unknown strand on which Odysseus ordered the ship beached. Now they must have seen an island. It was an unknown place, unknown island. Still, they thought they should take a break and they stopped there. So what he did, Odysseus ordered his men to ship beached. Means they can stay there on the beach. Light the fires. So he wanted them to light the fires. There are two reasons of lighting the fire. First, it will keep the wild animals away. Second, if you have anything to cook, you can. He said to his men, and the rest here, I shall see what lies beyond the cliff. So he says here, okay, you all can stay here, light the fire. I'll just go and see what is beyond this area, right? Odysseus followed a trail and saw a distant column of smoke. So he must have followed the trail, the path that was already built, and he followed it, and he saw that very far away he could see the wisp of smoke. But he decided to come back to the ship as he was hungry. So he was hungry, he wanted to check who lives there, who are the people, but then he was hungry, so he came back to his ship. While coming back, he noticed a stag. He thought, the gods must have led me to this beast and my men are also hungry. So he killed that deer and he got food. He brought the beast down with one arrow. His men prepared a meal and satisfied their hunger. So they must have prepared the meal. He had the deer and they ate. After the meal, Odysseus told his men of the wisp of smoke he had seen. Means wisp, you understand, just a little thin line of smoke in the air. So he tells his men about that smoke. On hearing this, his men recalled the cruel fate of their comrades at the hands of the Cyclops. You must have read this chapter in class 7. Cyclops are the giants, right, with one eye. So that is what he says. He says, oh, once our people, they got stuck on an island, and there they had to, the fate or their destiny was terrible. They were eaten by who? Cyclops and Lestrygotans. Means this is another kind of a giant who actually eats human, and broke down with loud lamentations. And these, after telling that, he actually started to feel sad. Lamentation is when you are filled with grief and sadness. Odysseus then divided the men into two groups, one under his command and the other under the command of a noble young man named Eurylochus. So he divided the men into two teams. One will stay with Odysseus, the other one will stay with Eurylochus. Lots were cast to decide which party would set off to investigate the source of the smoke. It fell to Eurylochus' group to do so, and he set off with his men into the woods. So finally, they decided who will stay and who will go. Finally, Eurylochus and his group were the ones who were supposed to go and find about the smoke. Okay, in due course and at that very time, the men approached a clearing where stood a palace. So maybe these men, they must have went there, and when they reached there, they saw that there was a clearing, there was no more forest, and there was this huge, beautiful palace. All roamed, okay, now what was there? All around it roamed wild beasts, and all around the palace, who was roaming? What were roaming? The wild beasts. Suddenly an enormous lion appeared before them, but it did not attack anyone. There was this lion, but it actually did not attack anyone. Why, this beast is as tame as my dog, cried one of the sailors. They were quite surprised to see that these wild animals are tamed. Everything seems to be weird here, said another. Listen, do we hear a sweet voice? So, they were feeling, oh my God, everything seems weird. There's this huge palace and there are so many wild animals, but they're all tamed. And then, of course, now they have got another thing, that is, they can hear the sweet singing of a lady. It seems to come from the palace. Come, let us find the maid who sings this strange tune. So they say, okay, let's do one thing. Let's go and find from the palace who is this lady who is singing. They came to the door of the palace, and one of them shouted, Hail to you, O maiden of glorious voice. Are you a goddess? So this man, one of them, he went there and he questioned, Hail to you, O maiden of glorious voice. Are you a goddess? The next moment, Cis, the enchantress, came out and invited them to enter. Now, enchantresses are the ones who are more into magic. So she was there. The men were at once bewitched, means under a spell, under magic. So the moment they must have seen her, they were all under her spell. All but Eurylochus followed her into the hall. So they all followed her into the hall except Eurylochus. A great feast was set before them. In their innocence, they ate and drank the wine and were immediately turned into swine with pig's head and bristles and noisy grunts. So before they could even understand what is happening, when they went in, they saw this huge feast. They started eating and drinking, and suddenly they started turning into pigs or the swines. With bristles, you understand, we are talking about, you must have seen the pig tooth and the grunts, the sounds they make. However, their minds were as human as before. Their minds were still same, but their physical appearance was completely changed. Eurylochus was at the gate. He thought, "It's queer. I do not hear the voices of my men. I can only hear the grunts of swine. What can have happened?" Now he was outside. He was standing there. He was pretty smart. He was just waiting, and he said, "How come I cannot hear the voice of my people anymore, and I can only hear what the sound of the pig?" A swineherd approached, and Eurylochus asked him, "Good man, have you seen some Greek soldiers in your mistress's palace?" So he questioned one of the swineherds. The goatherd shook his head sadly and replied, "They have met the same fate as all those who have been lured by Circe. They too have been turned into swine." So this goatherd must have, felt bad, and he told him that, "See, they have also met their fate." And what was their fate? They also turned into the what? Swines. They were attracted by her, and now they are all turned into swine. Filled with misgivings, Eurylochus rushed back to the camp and told Odysseus of the horrifying evil that had befallen his men. Now he was so scared. He rushed back to the place where Odysseus was there with his men, and he told him about what happened to the rest of his men. He told him about Circe and about the enchanted palace and everything. "It is madness. I'm sorry. Fetch my sword and my bow," said Odysseus, "and lead me to the palace." He said, "You just do one thing. Get me my sword and get me my bow. Let me go to the palace." "It is madness," said Eurylochus. "You will never rescue your men, and you won't come back yourself. I'm certain of it." So he was so scared. He said, "No, no, don't go there. I know if you go, you will never be able to rescue your own people. And when you come back, you'll never be yourself. You would have been changed. Please don't force me to go with you." So he says, "Please, please don't force me to come with you. Okay, I'm not coming with you." Desperate though the situation seemed, Odysseus was determined to attempt the rescue of his men. Maybe it was quite risky, but Odysseus was desperate. He really, really, really wanted to save his men. So he set out alone. As he penetrated deeper into the forest, he encountered Hermes in the form of a beardless youth. Hermes is another god, let's see. So when he entered into the forest, he met Hermes. He is the god of youth and the forest. Hermes approached Odysseus and said, "I suppose you have come to rescue your companion from Circe's evil spell. By yourself, you are likely to suffer the same fate as your friends." So he tells Odysseus straight away that, "See, I know you're going to save your friends, but you will face the same fate as your companions. However, I shall help you, and with my help, you will not fail." So God really wanted to help Odysseus, and he said, "See, I wish to help you, and I'm sure if I help you, you will not fail." Hermes then warned Odysseus of Circe's evil design and advised him of the course of action he would have to follow to foil her. Now, in order to win over her, there was a kind of a thing that he needed to follow. Then he gave Odysseus a plant with a black root and a white flower, which the gods called moly. Okay, this, said Hermes, would make you immune to Circe's sorcery. So he says here, "I want you to take this plant, right? and this plant will help you in turning into an immune so that you can keep yourself safe from Circe's sorcery. Odysseus journeyed on and finally found himself in front of Circe's palace. This must indeed be Circe's palace, he thought. I can hear the sweet music that lured my men. Lured means actually attracted my men, okay? He came up to the palace and shouted, "Hail, fair Circe, open thy gates to a wandering Greek." So she said, he actually went there and he said, "Hail, fair Circe, please open your gates to a Greek who is wandering around." The gates immediately swung open before him, and he saw a beautiful woman standing there. "Welcome, noble Greek," she said. "Come and refresh yourself at our table." So she said, "Yes, of course, noble Greek, you can come and eat whatever you want from our table." She offered him wine and said, "Quench your thirst, Greek. Whither art thou bound?" So she says here, you can quench your thirst, you can take and drink wine. And then she said, "Where are you going?" As Circe passed the cup, she dropped something into the drink. Unnoticed by Circe, Odysseus dropped his charm into the cup. Now Circe must have taken the wine cup and she added some wine and she used some kind of a magic into it. Now she was not aware of the fact that he's Odysseus, and Odysseus had the charm given by the gods. He dropped that charm into the cup. "I seek my companions whom fate has visited with sadness," said Odysseus as he drank the wine. So, as he drank the wine, he told Circe that, "See, I'm looking for my men who have faced a very bad fate." And he drank the wine. Of course, it was because of the gods that he won't be changing into a swine or a pig, so he is still safe. Right? We've read half of the chapter, the rest we'll read tomorrow. Right? I just want you all to read it once, and I'm sure you all must have completed your work. So please, if you haven't, just complete your work. It is very important. Right? And please remember that you have PTM on Wednesday. Is that clear? The time is given there. I have already forwarded that timetable so that you know. I'll be sending a link just like the Google Meet thing. I'll send you the link and I'll ask your parents. I will request you all to join in. Right? Okay, then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.